Service Center or Nebraska Service Center, where delays have been reported from 148 days to 190 days, respectively. Immigrant rights organizations are suing Department of Homeland Security agents. American Business Immigration Coalition, which advocates for system reform.
Community heads up so that people can apply well in advance.
Since 2012, DACA holders have been allowed to live and work freely in the U.S., given they renew their status every 2 years. But increasing delays have caused people to lose their work permits and their jobs. DHS says longer wait times are warranted to ensure the proper vetting of applicants in accordance with the 2025 executive order signed by President Donald Trump. But legal aid groups fear the slowdown is part of a larger mass deportation plan. It's estimated 3,000 Arkansans would lose their jobs if the DACA program is eliminated. The recipients were brought to the U.S. as undocumented children. They now work in essential fields like education, healthcare, and even law enforcement. Their labor force participation rate tops 90% nationwide compared to the average American's rate of just over 60%. She says their removal from the workplace impacts us all.
When you remove people that are productive and so motivated, you're not just harming these professionals, you're harming the American economy and also American citizens that depend on their hard work.
She hopes the lawsuit will provide DACA holders with some clarity and help expedite their applications. Meanwhile, the DREAM Act, which would allow DACA holders to earn U.S. citizenship.
When you're on the screen, when I introduce, after you're introduced, because we got some preliminaries to go through.
Arkansas News Service. Find our trust
Because I like it.
at publicnewsservice.org.
Here's a community announcement, KABF 88.3 FM. The state Arkansas Library will hold a grand opening of Ribbon Library Square Books, a new used bookstore in downtown Little Rock. The ribbon cutting takes place Thursday, August 20th at 2 p.m. I've been here with the grand opening celebration.
I know, so it's interesting.
I know.
Wait,
Connected to the first floor of the Bobby L. Roberts Library. Library Square Books will feature used books and related merchandise, and Cal plans to resume its community used book sale later this year. Before the grand opening, the bookstore will also have preview hours during Second Friday Arts Night on Friday, August 14th from 5 to 8 p.m. and Saturday, August 15th from noon to 4 p.m. Regular bookstore hours are Wednesday through Friday, noon to 5 p.m. and Saturday, noon to 4 p.m. More information is available at librarysquarebooks.org. This has been a community announcement, KABF 88.3 FM.
okay, we're going live. I mean, we are live. We're going after this.
I've been walking with my face turned to the sun. Weight on my shoulders, pulling in my
I got eyes in the back of my head,
Just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, when I'm here from the people. Once the clouds roll back and the stars Feel the night. That's where I'm gonna stand up. Take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, can you hear freedom calling? Calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, gonna start moving to a separating line. I'm waiting through body waters. Made up mind. And I'm not if I lose any blood on the way to salvation. And I fight with the strength that I got until I die. And so I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a new home. Far across the river, you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. I'm gonna keep on keeping on. And I know what's around the bend might be hard to face 'cause I'm alone. And I just might fall, but Lord knows I tried. She stands me up the sky. So I'm gonna say, take my people with me together. We are going to a brand new home, far across the river. I'm calling me to answer. I'm gonna keep on keeping. Take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. I'm gonna keep on keeping on. Say it again, say it again. Together we are going. Keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. I know to prepare a place for you. I go to prepare a place for you. I go to prepare a place for you. I go to prepare a place for you. Yes, we coming in hot this morning with Cynthia Erivo singing Stand Up. Take my people with me. We're going to be talking about that in just a moment. But right now, want to make sure that we let you know that you are listening to KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. You are tuned in to Community Voices with your host, the Reverend Dr. You can call me Denise. And also in studio, believe it or not, is your co-host, the pastor, Toney Orr.
I think some things just won't change. Some things just won't change. So, good morning, everyone. It is. I know I have.
Just greet us, and then you can come back on.
Good morning.
Yeah, yes. And And so I want to make sure that you know you are listening to Community Voices, where we do center Blackness in the context of the human story. So every human is invited to participate in this conversation. And the phone lines are already open. Hotep is already on the line, wishing you life, prosperity, and health. And the phone lines are open at 501-433-0088. 501-433-0088. You are more than welcome to call in to lend your voice to the conversation that we are having in the studio. So lend your voice to this conversation. That's what we want you to call in and talk about. And I also want to greet you in that spirit of Sawubona, that spirit of oneness that binds us together by our humanity. There's nothing that we can do about the fact that we are humans together, but we can do something about how we interact with each other, human to human. And that's what always, that current is always running underneath these conversations, calling us forward to say, hey, we are one. Let us govern ourselves accordingly. And so I also want to make sure that you understand how grateful we are. We would not be alive since 1984 if it were not for you. All of the ways that you show up. I know we have pledge drive like 4 or 5 times a year, but it's more than that. The way you show up in the community, the way you show up calling me on the phone, the way you show up sending me videos, sending me TikToks, sending me essays. You want to make sure that I'm up on the latest. You want to make sure that I get myself prepared. Like all of the ways that you see me in the community, and just only when I open my mouth do you recognize me, and then you come over and say, you must be Denise because I recognize your voice. All of the ways that you show up when we have rallies, when we have protests, when we volunteer for anything, you are always present for us. And that means so much. And we don't ever want you to think that we take that for granted. Not here at KABF 88.3 FM. But before we get started with the conversation today, I want to go back to Toney because he's trying to tell you all something. And then I want to introduce our guests and bring them up on the screen for those of you who are watching online.
Once again, good morning, everybody. It's been a while since I've been here on Tuesdays. And I have missed you guys so much. And it was just an opportunity this morning just to come in, say I'm still alive. I'm still here. It's just been a busy time for me. But I am also so grateful for all of you who have contributed to KABF 88.3 FM. And there are so many things that we have in the works for KBF. So there's going to be some new things coming in the next few months that I think will enhance the listening experience here on KBF 88.3. And I am so proud to be right now in the presence of some people that Denise is getting ready to introduce. They are very dear to my heart. So.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us whatever it is that you want us to know. We've got 3 people here from Get Loud, Arkansas. Woo-hoo. Shout out to Joyce Elliott for Get Loud, Arkansas. And so the first person I want you to just introduce yourself, whatever you want the listeners to know. Now, remember, we are streaming globally. So whatever you say is going to be heard across the world. So whatever you want to tell us about yourself, introduce yourself. That's what we'll do one at a time. And I'll bring you on the screen one at a time. So here's the first one. Oh, in the house.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine Zandy. I work with Get Loud Arkansas as a program director, and I have the honor of managing our summer youth ambassadors. 2 of them are here with me. They'll introduce themselves, but I just wanted to give y'all a bit of info about Get Loud Arkansas as we're starting off. We are a statewide, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. So nonpartisan means we don't tell anyone who to vote for, but our goal is to make sure that everyone that is eligible to vote in Arkansas goes out and makes their voice heard at the poll booth. So, Marcus, Micah, who's next?
Who's next?
I can be next.
Okay, go ahead. You are on the screen.
My name is Marcus Garcia. I'm 20 years old. I'm about to be a sophomore at the University of Miami, and I just finished.
Go Cane!
Go Cane! And I just finished being a summer youth ambassador for Get Loud Arkansas this summer, where I worked on getting more people my age civically involved in their community. But I also did a project that kind of reflected my own passions, but also reflected the values that we try to promote at Get Loud Arkansas. So that's kind of what I did this summer with Get Loud. Yeah.
And we've got one more in the house. It's Micah. You are on the stage.
Hey guys, my name is Micah, and I'm just really happy to be working with Get Loud. I was a summer youth ambassador as well, and over the summer, I was just really glad to be able to get more people of color within my community educated about civic engagement and voting.
Thank you all so much for being here. It means a lot to have Get Loud Arkansas in the space, because we have been saying this now for a little bit, and we're going to continue to say it, that all roads lead to the ballot box. All roads lead to the ballot box. So this is a conversation that continues that storyline, continues that theme that we have about making sure that we are voting. And I wanted to start the conversation with Cynthia Erivo singing Stand Up. This is the theme song from Harriet. For those of you who have been to the movies, if you haven't seen Harriet, I would highly recommend it. And so this is the theme song from Harriet that Cynthia Erivo plays Harriet in the movie. But she said, I'm gonna stand up. The first thing that she says is, I'm going to stand up. And so that's the thing that she has to do for herself, for my own sake, for my own soul, for my own salvation, for my own glory. I got to stand up for myself. And then she goes on to say, but I'm not going to stop right there, because it's not just all about me. I'm going to also take from the EJI. I've just gotten to the point now where I feel like I can get a tidbit from anywhere. And so I'm going back to read books that I read a long time ago, and I'm squeezing that peanut so tightly. It is easy to understand, as he stood on the auction block and was sold, put down and was afraid, survived to stand yet again, that he held on to that peanut. We can see him being marched to a community in Virginia and kissing the ground upon which he would labor for the remainder of his life. While kissing that ground, he rested that peanut into it. And Virginia became the peanut capital of the world, though it hardly gave a nod to George Washington Carver. So we want to talk about standing up, no matter what the circumstances are. Standing up, believing that if you get knocked down, you'll get back up again. Standing up, trusting that who you are is stronger than the moment that you are in, and that you will survive. So this song and this tidbit got me fired up about these youngsters that's up in here today, so that we can talk about how they can help us stand up and move forward towards liberation, collective liberation. And so I want to hear from you all. What, especially Micah and this is Micah and Marcus, what brought you to Get Loud Arkansas?
I think for me, definitely just like I wanted to be more involved in my community, but I also realized that like a lot of people my age have are pretty apathetic towards voting, or they just aren't as civically engaged as I am. And that's something that I kind of wanted to like address and like talk to people my age about, to get a better understanding of that. Because if I'm being honest, like I sometimes don't understand it, because I'm an active citizen in my community. I try to be aware of things that happen, and when I see other people who just don't share that same mindset, I kind of do wonder why. Because I realize that like the policies that are being made today are like shaping my future, but also my life right now. And so I feel like I just want to like make sure that other people know that too. And that's kind of why I like want to do, I want to be civically involved, and I like chose to like spend my summer with Get Loud Arkansas, because I know it's so important to me, and I know how important it actually is. And I just wanted to make sure that other people my age knew that as well.
Before you get started, Michael, let me get this comment up. Here's Lo saying, just to quote Dr. King, fly if you can, and if you can't fly, run. And if you can't run, then walk. And if you can't walk, crawl. However, keep moving forward. Get to the polls no matter your circumstances. Love that. Just to quote Dr. King, fly if you can, and if you can't fly, run. And if you can't run, walk. And if you can't walk, crawl. However, you just keep moving forward. Get to the polls no matter your circumstances. Okay, Michael, what about you? What brought you to Get Loud Arkansas?
I always think that my mom kind of pushed me originally, but once I started to educate myself about like all of the groups like myself, like young Black men and people of color who feel like apathetic towards voting and whatnot, I kind of took it on myself to be like responsible for educating and just inspiring people around me to be more civically engaged, and let them know that, they can make an impact and they do have power.
And they do have power. Say that again, Micah. We have an impact. Say that last part again.
Everybody has an impact and we do have power.
We do have power. Okay, okay. Jasmine, what brought you to Get Loud, Arkansas?
So my start was post-college. I was actually really interested in food insecurity work. I started working at the library, running a program where we were getting food to kids and their families. But over time, I was realizing that, a lot of what we were looking to change really needed to happen at the structural level because we could only provide so much just at the library. So I thought, okay, really the real change lies in those policy decisions and how we vote and how we show up for our communities. And that is really what brought me to Get Loud, because I see the value in this work and in making sure that everyone sees not only the power of their own voice, but doesn't lose hope in the power of the community and the structure that we have going right now. So I want to make sure that people know this is for them, it is for everyone, and the issues that you care about should be reflected at the polling locations.
And so, Marcus, when you were talking, you said you realize that young folks are apathetic about voting. I want to ask Micah why you think do you agree with that and why you think that's true?
I would say, yeah, I do agree. A lot of people, they feel passionate about a lot of policies and political figures, but they just think that there's no point in voting because even if they do vote, not enough people will vote or just it won't matter in general.
So what do you say to them? How do you respond when they say, I don't want to vote because it doesn't matter, it ain't gonna make a difference? How do you respond to that?
I would say that mindset and thinking like that, it kind of reinforces like the results. When people think like that, it kind of becomes a domino effect where they like manifest it into reality. People who think my individual vote doesn't matter, the more people who don't actually get out and vote. And every result comes from a bunch of individual voters getting together and voting for the same policies. So I don't think people should think like that.
So Marcus, what about you? What do you think makes people apathetic towards voting?
I think it's just maybe the lack of understanding sometimes. I don't think people understand like the weight that their vote holds. And like I mentioned earlier that I did a project for Gallup, Arkansas, and that combined my passion for I have a recent passion for filmmaking and editing. So I made like a 15-minute documentary for Get Loud that kind of included like around 8 minutes of interviews that I did with people my age, but also just like kind of a history lesson of like, your vote holds like the weight of like generations before you who fought for you to have that right. And so I just want to emphasize that. But also I think it's just that I think when we see like current day politics, it's very divided and it's very polarizing. And I think that kind of pushes people away from voting because they just don't feel like they want to get involved in a fight. But I think that it's important to remember that like it's not a fight against each other. We're fighting for, like what you believe in and like what you like care about. And I think, change is compounding over time. We've seen it in history where it's like, a group of people get together and they like start creating change. And that doesn't happen overnight. It happens because people see that like people care about something and they join the fight. And then we all, join in. And it's just, it's sometimes a slow process, but I mean, it's like, it's important. It's important that young people get out and vote. And it's sad to see that young people aren't like the ones who show up to the poll the most and are the most excited about it. But like, especially because they are the next generation and they're the ones that are going to be affected by it. But I think it's just important to like start somewhere and like get more young people to vote. And if I get one person my age to vote, then maybe they'll tell their friend to go out and vote. So again, change is compounding over time.
I was going to ask you. Yes, I was going to ask you next.
I'll just add that one of our summer ambassadors last summer actually did a research project into the young apathy around voting. And ultimately what she came to is that young people are passionate. They are focused on their futures and wanting to shape the future that they live in. It's just that not many of them are asked to be involved, which might sound counterintuitive, like, oh, well, no one has to ask you to go vote. Like once you turn 18, you can just go. But a lot of young people are almost in a position of not knowing where to go. And so I think that that's a unique position that Get Loud Arkansas is in that we want to center youth voices. We want to keep Micah and Marcus and everyone at the forefront of the conversation because they are the ones charting that path forward.
So what do you say to a person who says, I don't want to vote because my vote doesn't matter, it's not going to make a difference? What do you say?
So a lot of folks, I try to ask them, like, where are you feeling like that comes from? A lot of people will tell us, oh, but nationally, like whoever they want is going to be put in place anyway. And so I'll say, okay, sure, I see you on the national level. It might feel like you're just a drop in the bucket, but think more local than that. If that's where you need to get started, think of the things that in your community you want to see change and start there. Start with your group of friends and see where you can take it. We've worked on some elections where it has been decided truly by one vote. It ended in a tie. So if just one more person had shown up and said, this is what I care about, let me put my opinion into the mix, it would have completely changed the outcome of that election. It's specifically what I'm thinking about is one for a millage for a school. And so those kids in that neighbor or in that community now don't get a new school because one less person showed up to vote. So it really can make a difference. And I think folks need to hear just how much one person can really make that difference.
And that goes back to what Micah said about everyone has an impact and everyone has power. And so, yeah, people just need to hear that everyone can make an impact and everyone, we do have power. Tony, did you want to respond to that?
Yes, and I think people, I want people to understand the background and the history of Get Loud. If there's any person here in the state of Arkansas that embodies the song Stand Up, embodies the spirit of Harry, is Senator Joyce Elliott, who created Get Loud Arkansas. And when she came to me to ask me to be a part of it, I did not hesitate. And just to hear her vision of what she wanted to do, and it's been this great push. And one thing about young people that we have to understand, the assault on voting, the assault on voter suppression is not so much towards the older generation, it's the younger generation. When Get Loud came out with the electronic signature, where you could go to high schools, you could go to colleges and get young people to sign up, they immediately attacked it. They immediately, they, even though the Attorney General of Arkansas said, yes, it's okay, the Election Commission went and overrode what the Attorney General said and stopped it. And fortunately, there was this lawsuit that brought it back. But going back to what Marcus and Micah and Jasmine have been saying, if you can't get young people involved, if you can't get the younger generation involved, if you can't let them know the history of why it's so important to vote, then it's going to be this place where you're going to lose out so much. So it warms my heart to see Jasmine, but also to see Micah and Marcus, who are pushing forward to make sure that young people know their vote does count, that their value does count, and that they are going to be the difference makers going forward in this world.
I want to take a moment to read another excerpt from the foreword written by Nikki Giovanni for the 50th anniversary publication of Margaret Walker Alexander's Jubilee. And I want us to, wait, Hotep's on the line. Hotep says, all politics are local. All politics are local. And that's absolutely right. And because what I think that people don't understand is that this game called politics, it doesn't start at the White House. These people start running locally. They start by being your city director. They start by being your mayor. They start by being the governor. And they continue to move through that pipeline. And then they end up in, on a national stage. But we could stop them here. If we vote locally and we say, no, we don't want you in the pipeline. We're going to keep you out of the pipeline because we know once you're in, you pretty much got a shoe in unless we raise up, which is what this conversation is about, standing up and voting because we realize how important it is, especially on the local level. So I love that, Jasmine, that you said when people tell me that, I want to redirect their attention. I don't want you to focus on what's happening nationally. Yes, I want you to be aware, but I don't want you to focus on that because you are powerful right here in your own city. And that's what we have to make sure that we continue to spread that message. But here's an excerpt. Oh, go ahead, Jasmine.
The only other thing I want wanted to add is that we'll also tell people, okay, back up from parties. It's not Democrat and Republican. Think about what are your morals and your values.
Mm.
Vote in that way. Hold people accountable in that way. Think about what is important to you and how you are raised.
Yeah, because I think that's also part of the problem, right? That people do vote based on your party. You don't think about anything else. You just vote because it's the party. I'm a Democrat. I always vote Democrat. I'm a Republican now. And that shouldn't be the case. So I appreciate you saying that, Jasmine. But that also means that you have to know who you are. You got to make sure you take the time to ask yourself, what are my values? What are my core beliefs? What is it that I want to make sure is ready for me to hand off to the next generation when I'm no longer here? What kind of environment do I want them to have? What kind of social interactions between races do I want them to have? Like all of that, you have to know that in order to determine who's the best person for you to vote for. And so here's Hotep. Are any of your guests considering a run for any political office? Are any of you considering a run for political office?
Currently no, but I mean, it's never off the table. I really do like politics. I really like being involved, so it's something I've definitely thought about. But right now I just am kind of focusing on my education and focusing on, just being a part of change in my community. And if that kind of evolves into a role that leads me to be a politician, then maybe.
Okay, that was Marcus talking. What about you, Micah?
Right now, no, but definitely something I might want to revisit in the future. I'm very passionate about helping people get politically engaged.
What about you, Jasmine?
My answer has always been no. I'm actually Canadian by birth, and so I always laugh that it'll be hard for Arkansans to vote a Canadian into office. But outside of that, I like being on the back end of things. I like to create structure and create capacity for other people to lead. I think that's why I enjoy working with our youth ambassadors so much. So if anyone needs to run a campaign, I'll be there every step of the way.
It's interesting that you say that to me, that you said that it would be hard for Arkansans to vote for a Canadian. But you're with Get Loud Arkansas, and we're talking about the power of the vote, and we're talking about helping people get out to vote, and we're doing that work. So if we do that work, you absolutely could be voted in as a Canadian. You don't think so?
Well, that's a bigger question, I think.
Well, I mean, but it was interesting to me that you're here with Get Loud Arkansas, and so it's like, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about getting people to vote for the right person. You would be the right person. And so that's the work. And I think you were talking while I was talking. So go ahead and say that again, what you were trying to say.
More, I was just saying, I think that's a part of a bigger societal question, kind of who we think, I guess, is electable and who isn't. But yeah, I do encourage people to push those boundaries because we do need some brighter, fresher faces in office. So I recommend everyone. I learned just this summer that there are so many positions. You only have to be 18 to run for. You don't need any kind of educational background. You don't have to be 18. You can just run. So really, I encourage everyone to even think about it. I just know for myself, I don't feel like I want to be in the public eye like that. But I like organizing things behind the scenes.
I feel like there's a problem with that. I don't feel like it's a problem with engaging 18-year-olds in the political process, but I do feel like it's a problem that you don't have to have any kind of education or training. And this is what Kwame was talking about, putting together a bill that says everybody who is running for office, you got to pass the test. Because if you don't know what you're doing in office, then how can you be in a position to help us move forward in the ways that we need to move forward in this country, in this world? And so again, I don't have a problem with you being 18, but I do have a problem with there not being any kind of stipulations around what you have to have in order to serve in that capacity. Here's Low. Little Rock has elected a woman Canadian in the past. I didn't know that. Little Rock has elected a woman Canadian in the past. And here's Mayor Lisa Hicks Gilbert. What is the one thing that you see or hear that discourages the next generation from being engaged voting? And how can we change that? What is the one thing that you see or hear that discourages the next generation from being engaged or voting? And how can we change that? Whoever wants to go
I would
first.
say just mostly seeing like a lack of education. A lot of people just have no idea how like the entire voting process in Valley works. And then also there's a lot of like material distractions. So many people are just concerned with making money and just being able to sustain themselves. They don't really think about the bigger like institutional reasons why they have to work so hard?
I would say that going off of that, I think that's all correct. And then something that I hear like time and time again is just like that my vote doesn't matter, or that like nothing will change, or that everything's already decided, or like some people even have this idea that like the elections are like decided by like some organization or something bigger than us that like we don't get to be a part of. But I mean, in all honesty, like politics is run by the people for the people, so we should have, we do have that like say in our government, and we do have that say in politics. So
I used to love when Kamala Harris would say, Kamala Harris for the people. Yes, it's about the people. We are the ones with the power. The people have the power. Jasmine, did you want to respond to that? What is one thing that you see or hear that discourages the next generation from being engaged or voting, and how can we change that?
I think my answer will be kind of funny based on my answer to the previous question, but I think if we saw more young people running for office, there would potentially be more turnout. I think we've seen it across the country where when folks are excited about a candidate that better reflects their lived experience, that they do end up turning out a bit more to vote. So I think I just need to unpack my own. I'll work on that for myself a little bit, but I do think that if there were more candidates that reflected everyone's lived experience, that maybe more people would turn out to vote.
Tony, did you want to say something?
So I think one of the things, and going back to what you said and what Lo said, that sometimes people have a different perspective on, if you come from another viewpoint, is, say you're Canadian, Jasmine, and in Canada, it's about the people. The people vote who they want to be in these offices. And it's not a lot of business that's buying politicians. And I think that's one of the biggest issues we have right now. And I think young people see it because that's what they hear when they start talking about politics, and they start looking at these statistics where, hey, the Republican or the Democratic Party has just spent $100 million on this race. And I think that discourages them, because if I get into politics, where am I going to get $100 million? Now I really can't do the work I want to do, because now I have to be this song and dance person to make these businesses or these powerful people to want to invest in me instead of invest in what I want to do. So I think that's one thing that has to change, and that goes back to the idea that all roads lead to the ballot box. It has to be where young people start to say, you know what, we want to take this money out. We want to elect officials to the Supreme Court, to Congress, to the Senate, that will stop this money from influencing everything. Because once the money becomes a part of the framework of a young person running, now the money is going to be the guiding force to what they want to do, and the policies they make is all going to be about money and not about the people.
So getting money out of politics would be very helpful, extremely helpful. I want to also let you know that Lo said that her name is Sharon Priest. Sharon Priest was the Canadian that was once voted into office in Little Rock. I do want to take a moment to read this passage from the foreword written by Nikki Giovanni for Margaret Walker Alexander's Jubilee, the 50th anniversary edition. That's where you can find it. And I want to connect it to this conversation. So let me set the context. Let me set the tone. So she's talking about those Africans who were brought over to what became the United States from their homeland. And she's talking about how, depending on the number of days, when they first left, when the ship first left their land, some of them could look back and all of them could look back and see the land. So many of them jumped over because they felt like they could swim back to their home. And so as the days kept passing, they realized how far they were by looking at the clouds, because the clouds look different over water than they do over land. And so some of them jumped in because they're like, I don't know where we're going, but I can still figure it out where I need to be if I just look at the clouds as a guide, if I use them as a guide. But then as they kept on coming, they got to the point where they could no longer see the clouds over their land, nor could they see the clouds that could direct them, nor could they see their homeland. And so now everything is about to come to a head. And that's where I want to pick up, that they've gotten to the 10th day, because everything changes on the 10th day. So listen to these words. The 10th day was the day every white man and woman on board, and there were women on these ships, had to be armed. They knew the people would furiously fight, and they knew they had to fight back. We all know the results. The people who were put back down had decisions to make. There was probably an old Black woman who was purchased cheaply. Someone probably laughed at the purchase. She's so old, what are you going to do with her? But he purchased her anyway. You never know. Now this purchase was going to pay off. Down in that darkness, with defeat all around this woman, this woman knew she needed to do something to save her people. She did not speak the language of most of the folk tethered with her. They were, after all, from different communities, much as if someone had herded parts of the German, French, Portuguese, and Spanish communities into a boat. They had a different language and different ways of looking at things, but they all knew they were defeated. She had to find a way to lift them together. The only thing she had was a moan, and she moaned. That moan would become a spiritual. That spiritual would become jazz, which would become blues and rhythm and blues, and then rap. That moan would define not only a people, but the nation to which they were sailing. That moan would make those people decide that they could live. And so what if we considered the vote our moan? The only thing left that we have in us, because it looks, when you're talking about these people that say, I don't want to vote because it doesn't make a difference, they feel defeated. But if you say, but your vote is your ticket out, your vote is your answer, the way this moan was the answer to salvation for these people that changed the whole scope of music in this world. And so if you see your vote as your moan, what's way down deep that you have to do, I got to do this to lift my people up. I got to do this to help people recognize that we are not defeated. We may be surrounded by defeat, but we ourselves have the power. If your vote became your moan, what a difference it would make. And so that's what I'm asking us to do, to consider that the only thing we have left, after all the oppression, after all the capitalism, after all the racism, sexism, homophobia, all of that, we still have our vote. And going back to what Micah says, your vote is your power, and we have to exercise that. And so what is Get Loud Arkansas doing to put in place this structure that you talked about, Jasmine, that helps people get to that polling place so that they can exercise their freedom, their right to vote?
Definitely. So we are a 3-pillar organization. We get folks registered to vote, we get folks out to vote, and we do that civic education piece so that folks really feel empowered when they go vote. And I think from that, we're doing a variety of things. We have the summer youth ambassadors throughout the summer. But then this fall, we're starting to partner with the local library system. We're going to be hosting Civic Saturdays. We want people to come and join us and chat about life, about civics, and just get people outside of the idea that civics has to be about us versus them or about any of that kind of divisive stuff. We want to make sure that people find a home that is civically charged. And then we are also hosting a leadership summit this September, where we hope that 18 to 24-year-olds, everyone is welcome, but we're really focused on those young folks, that they'll come and spend the whole day with us learning about civics, how they can get more involved, and hearing from members of the community about what their civic journeys have been like. And I think to what you just read, I wanted to touch on a bit of the history, and a bit of that apathy that folks are feeling, I think, is rooted in just how much throughout history people have been told, no, you cannot vote. No, we are putting this boundary in your way of voting. So I want people to know that there have been tactics used throughout history that have prevented people from voting. For example, the first people that were able to vote were only white men who had property. And then hundreds of years have continued to go by where it continued to change because a number of people said, hey, actually, I think this group should be allowed to vote, or I think this group should be allowed to vote. So there are things like poll taxes where people had to pay money to even go vote, or literacy tests where people were tested to know whether they could read and write, and that was what decided whether or not they could go vote. And so I want people to know that there have been so many things throughout history that have tried to stop people from voting, and that if it wasn't so important, people wouldn't keep trying to stop it from happening. So your vote really is your power. I want folks to see it that way.
And it's interesting that you said that because I actually have in my possession a copy, not a copy, my dad's, I guess it was a receipt that they gave him for his poll tax. So when you talk about history, a lot of times people think you're talking about way back in 1800s, way back in 1753. No, my daddy was 78 when he died. So that was not a long time ago. And so this history that you're talking about is also our present. It is both and, because yes, it happened historically, but it continues to happen even now. And as you were talking, Jasmine, you said civics. I said, oh, so wait a minute. Let me just say this to Lo. Lo says, besides registering voters, what is the organization doing with voter education? And so Jasmine just answered that. Besides registering voters, what is the organization doing with voter education? So she just answered that. And one of the things that they're doing are civic Saturdays. And so as soon as you said that, I was like, I used to take civics used to be on our part of our curriculum when I was in middle school and high school. And I started thinking, they don't even teach civics anymore, do they?
I think so, but it's really only one semester, and it's usually in ninth grade. So by the time you're actually old enough to go vote, it's been 4 years since you've taken that class and you kind of really remember what's going on. So we'll meet folks where they are with that civic education piece. People will tell us to come, we'll do lessons and workshops where we look at people's morals and values, where we ask folks to kind of look into that for themselves and see what that sparks for them. But we'll also do workshops where we'll go and show folks like, okay, your first time voting, this is what it will feel like, this is what it will look like, et cetera, et cetera. So we can tailor that civic education to whatever folks need, because we know that everyone is kind of at a different spot.
And I want to say something real quick, and that's why the civics is so important. The civic education is so important. The voting education is so important because you mentioned something, Jasmine, that as this country was founded, the only people who had the right to vote was white male landowners. So the Constitution had embodied or have put this structure in that only a certain group of people we wanted to vote. Well, there's an old saying that if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. Well, history is starting to repeat itself because going back to what I said earlier about not wanting young people to vote, in this country now, they only want a certain group of people to vote. If you look at this administration, the vice president even came out and said that, women who are married need to vote for who their husbands vote for. That, if your name is different from your husband's name, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. And the target is on Black, poor, white, and other ethnic groups that we don't want you voting. And then if you bring it full circle to what's going on in Arkansas, where it used to be the direct democracy, that where you can get an initiative on the ballot, and now they're taking. We don't want you to vote. We want to decide the fate of your communities, the fate of you, the fate of everything dealing with you, and we know more in the vote than you do. So they're trying to take so many groups of people out of the loop of voting. And that's why it's so important that there has to be a pushback. You have to get out and vote. You have to get out and change the narrative, because if you don't, you're going to look up one day and they will say, voting is not important for you. It's only important for us group of people, and we're going to control the narrative.
And I think it's important to also say that it wasn't just white men who had land. Okay, wait. Hold on. Can you turn your volume all the way down and mute yourself? Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. It's not just about it wasn't just white men who owned land. They also the property was people. They also own people, humans, real live humans. So let's not leave out that part right there. Let's absolutely not leave out that part. And so when we talk about, and that's one of the things that we do on the show, we connect the dots so that we can see, so that people can see that this is something that we have been fighting for a long time. And we need everybody to get in on the fight, the struggle towards collective liberation. It's not the struggle towards Black liberation. It's not the struggle towards white liberation. I didn't mean to say that. It's not the struggle towards brown liberation. It's the struggle towards collective liberation. Because again, if one of us is being oppressed, all of us are, because we are bound by that spirit of Sawubona, and that is the spirit of oneness, and that is the spirit of humanity. And so, Marcus, do you consider yourself brown?
I do, yeah.
Okay, and Michael, do you consider yourself Black, African American?
Sure.
Okay, I want to make sure, because sometimes you cannot just trust what you see, and so I want to know. I'm just saying. You're brown too. Wait, you said it loud. You want it? You like, don't get me mixed up. Don't get me mixed up. She said, don't get it mixed up. I'm brown too. I want to know from you, both of you, Micah and Marcus, and it doesn't matter to me which one answers first, or if only one of you answers. But do you see a difference in how people are responding to the voting message based on race? Do you see a difference between Black and brown folks when you are talking to them about voting?
I definitely think so, and I think that comes from like the interviews that me and Micah did, where we just got a lot of responses from, predominantly Black people, and they gave, the responses they gave was about race. It did matter to them because historically they weren't able to vote, and they were systematically they're being oppressed, and they have been for so long. And there are just like constant barriers that get in the way, and for them, voting means so much more. And I think the message they gave, it was like it meant so much more to them, because it was almost like now it's their identity, like they have this right and they have to use it, because before they weren't able to. And I think race does often play a factor in how people perceive voting.
I know I say that a lot. I don't care if it doesn't look like it makes a difference. I don't care if you feel like the people that are in, I don't care about any of that. The only thing I care about is the fact that you carry within your cells. You carry the trauma, you carry the struggle, you carry all of the oppression, the abuse, the tragedy, all of that. You carry that. And so you ought to carry them with you as you vote. And you vote on, you should talk to them. All right, ancestors, we walking in the door. We walking in the door. Okay, I'm about to feed this to this machine. Like, it should be an honor for you, especially as a Black person, to say, I voted today, because we know for a fact how hard it was for us to get here. So I appreciate you saying that. What about you, Micah?
Oh yeah, I think race plays a major impact. A lot of people have said, like, because of historically speaking, things have been harder for people of color to get out and vote, and they think that their vote today still doesn't hold as much. But just building off of what you said, I think that's all the more reason why it's important for people of color to go out and vote, because their vote does matter, and we fought so hard to get that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Toney, did you want to say something?
I think you said it all. I think Marcus and Micah said it all. Going back to what I said earlier, in this country, race plays such an important part of who they want to be allowed to vote, and the struggle for Black, brown, and even women to have a voice in politics, have a voice in voting, is coming back to they want to oppress, they want to silence, they want to stop that voice. And we always have to remember, I always remember the tragedies, the assassinations, the murders, the lynchings of people who all they want to do was have their voices heard through their vote, and what happened to them. And we always have to remember the blood of our ancestors that spills run through the dirt and of this country, and if nothing else, that's to push you to push through to go vote.
And I just want to make sure I just say a couple of things. First of all, you said, Tony, they're coming back to take because they want to take our vote and all of those things. I'm like, no, they're not coming back. They never left, right? Like this is something that this has never stopped. This voter suppression, it never stopped. It is a constant theme for a specific, especially the Republican Party, nationalists, whoever it is that you want to give the credit to, that continues to have us in this predicament. But I also wanted to give you all a minute because our time is up. But I want to make sure that you all if you have one last thing that you want to say to the people, I want to give you that opportunity to do so.
I guess I would say that reiterating everything that we've said today, and if you had one thing that's stuck in your mind, it's that your vote is your power. It's your way of expressing how you feel, and you don't have to subscribe to a political party, but I mean, there should be something that you care about morally, and there should be something that you feel like you have to stand up for it, and voting is your one way of doing that.
Thank you, Marcus.
Well, I just want people to know that, politics and civic engagement, it always starts with you. It's your responsibility to just educate yourself and take it upon yourself to help educate others in your community.
And if folks feel so moved, I'd like for them to follow us on social media, Get Loud Arkansas everywhere, and on our website, getloudarkansas.org. If you want to volunteer with us, help folks get registered to vote or write postcards to potential voters, please reach out to us. And I just hope everyone goes out to vote.
And I also want to leave us with the fact of the matter that when we talk about ancestors, a lot of times, and I've had to come to this realization. I usually consider it to be my people, going back to the Africans, but everybody's our ancestor. We all are one as humans, so we trace back together, and so we can't do this separation. Like, no, those were your people that did that. All of them were our people because we are bound together by the spirit of Sawubona, which is the oneness. Thank you all so much for joining us. Get Loud Arkansas. It has been great having this conversation. I do hope that it sparks even more conversations for the loyal listeners, as well as the people who come out and take part in all of the things that you all are doing. And I would love for you to send me those flyers so that I can make those announcements so we can get as many people out to whatever it is that you all are doing as possible. The civic Saturdays, the educational pieces, the being able to register to vote, then you want to get them out to vote, like all of those things. If you would keep me included, I will make sure that the people get the messages from you. And so thank you all for joining us for Community Voices. You have been live right here at KABF 88.3 FM with your host, the Reverend Doctor. You can call me Denise, and your co-host, Pastor Toney Orr. And so right now though, you got to get ready for your girl Lola, because she already at the door, poised to bring you 2 hours of jazz that you don't want to miss. The same way you think about going to the voting booth, this is how you have to think about listening to your girl Lola every single Tuesday. And I'm going to get her started with one of the ladies. This is Olita Adams, and I chose the song based on our conversation, Everything Must Change. And we can do that. We can affect that change by our vote. We'll see y'all next time. Everything must change.